Today we're making some lean dough. Lean dough, why? Because it simply has 4 simple ingredients. Water, warm water, close to 100 degrees. Why? Because around 100 degrees, that's where bacteria starts breeding and multiplying. Think of yourself when you have a fever. Around 100 degrees, you got a bacteria, you got a virus working in your system. You develop a fever. Well, yeast is a live bacteria that gets activated between 90 and 110 degrees, which is best. Too hot, over 120, we can kill our yeast. Too cold, and it may take a long time for our yeast to develop. So, very simply, flour, yeast, salt, and water. Amazing how 4 simple ingredients could wreak so much havoc on people trying to make bread. One thing we don't want to add initially with the yeast is the salt. Why? That'll inhibit or slow down the growth of the yeast and won't allow it to develop. So I have my warm water, I already checked it. It's about 95 degrees, which is perfect for this. That's gonna go in, and I'm gonna stir in my yeast. Today I'm using rapid instant yeast. Sometimes in school I use the fresh yeast cakes, dry activated, which has to be bloomed. So I put it in here in my warm water and I stir it around. And I always tell the kids to let it sit for a couple minutes so it becomes activated. And we call that a foam or a sponge. Why do we call it a foam or a sponge? Because it will begin to foam up or sponge up as the yeast starts expanding and sucking in some of that water, absorbing some of that water. So after that sits about 10 or 15 minutes, we can add our flour and our salt. Now the biggest mystery I believe people have with bread is they'll read recipes, like they bake stuff, they put it in the oven for an hour, half an hour, let it cool for half an hour or so. And they'll read recipes that'll say, let the yeast develop in the dough for a half an hour or an hour. Well, that's not always necessarily true. Why? There's a large variable in making bread. Even though lean doughs only have 4 ingredients, when we get into our rich doughs, like our Danish doughs or cinnamon rolls, and some of our other doughs that have eggs and sugar and butter, they have much more ingredients. So they're called rich doughs because of their fat content and their richness in flavor. Lean doughs, water, flour, salt, and yeast. Your Italian breads, your ciabatta breads, your French breads. So a lot of people will let it sit for an hour. Now, the dough has to rise 3 times. So what usually happens is people let it sit for an hour. That first rise, which should be your longest, has not fully developed. What happens is the yeast gives off these carbon dioxide gases and they expand, and that's what leavens or lightens our bread product, which helps it grow. Now, we talked about chemical leaveners last time with our quick breads and our banana bread. Those are chemical leaveners. They help rise or lighten our products. So the best way to tell is visually when your dough will double in size. Now, if you have a very warm oven, it could be 40 minutes. If it's very cold out, it may be 2 hours. That's why you can't go directly by a clock with bread doughs. So we're gonna put it in here. We're just gonna mix this a couple minutes till it comes together.
Okay.
So after we've gone several minutes, we'll notice this is wrapped around the dough hook. Now this ciabatta is a very wet dough. So what happens with ciabatta bread is we fold it in a bowl, 3 separate occasions, 3 separate rises. Then we take it to our tabletop, divide it into our loaves, and it goes straight in the oven. It's not shaped like rolls or French bread or other Italian bread. So, very sticky. We take it out of the bowl, and we're going to place it in our bowl that it's gonna sit in. Now this has to rise, if we look at the size of this, until it doubles in size. So now if we look at this, that circumference has to double. Then we have to fold it. Let it rise again a second time. Fold it again. Let it rise again a third time. Fold it. And then finally when it comes up, we could take it to the bench. Probably divide this in half and put it in the oven. Now with other breads, we let them rise. They come to the bench, like Italian bread or French bread. We scale them. We let them what they call bench rest, because what happens is we know we have gluten in here, which is the protein strands. And once that's worked, it's like working muscles. They have to relax a little bit. It's like running or biking for a while. Then when they get nice and soft, we form them into their loaves and we proof them again. But with the ciabatta, we just put it like this. I'm gonna put it in a warm environment to proof, and we're gonna check it in probably about 45 minutes. I don't have a proof box at home, so my go-to proof box at home is usually the front seat of my car with the doors closed to generate a lot of heat.
Ready.
So as we see my nice proof box in my car here, we see just about an hour, a few more minutes, maybe an hour and 15 minutes it was, how it doubled. So I'm gonna turn this right in the bowl, okay? Just turn it right in the bowl, rotating the bowl. Now my next couple rises should be a little bit quicker because the dough is already started, the yeast is already started. So we'll check this again, all right? We'll check this again in probably about 40 minutes or so. Put it back in this nice warm car and we'll give it our second turn. I'll poofed right up again. This will be our second turn. Then we'll check it again and we'll say in about 40-45 minutes. Notice I don't even take it out of the bowl. Just like before, keep turning it. And there's number 2. See, this is expanded nicely. We're gonna fold it for our last time. The next time it rises like this, we're gonna divide it in half or thirds, and we're gonna put it in the oven. We're gonna start this at a high oven, 450 degrees, for about 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes. Then we're gonna drop it down to 350 for about 25-30 minutes.
Good.
And we are set.
Okay.
We have seen it came up our last time. Now we're gonna divide the dough. 10 minutes at 450, and then 25 minutes at 350. The initial heat will give us that pop, that boost, which we need for the dough to grow and expand. A little bit of water will help the formation of the crust, but will also help the crust not get too thick, because we don't want oil crust, we want to eat bread too. Gonna be challenging in my home oven because I'm known to set the fire alarm off every time I turn the heat up pretty high. I got a stone in there, so it's the first time I'm doing this bread at home. We're gonna see how it happens. So this is ready to go in. Our oven's nice and hot. Right across the top, our loaves are formed nicely. So we're gonna give that 10 minutes. A little spritz of water. Oh, I don't have water in here, so I just have to moisten my hands. And a little spritz to help with the formation of crust, and we'll give it 9 minutes, and then we'll check it, and we'll drop it down.
Ready. So
after 25 or 30 minutes, remember we went 10 minutes at 450, and then 25 to 30 minutes at 375, and this is how it looks. Now we have to let it sit for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then we can cut it.